and welcome to the podcast. We have quite an action-packed thing that's happening, which I don't know. I'm just mumbling now. We are going to talk about the local elections and what has happened in council. And we're going to, of course, do our usual as well with the updates, the lingo bingo, and the download as well. Well, today's guests are two troublemakers. We've got Emma from council and Sarah from campaigns.
I feel like that's a challenge, Emma. Let's cause as much trouble as we can for Chelsea.
Yeah. And I'm Emma, and I live in Leeds, and I'm a quality consultant and a council member. And what I always say to people, I'm not the troublemaker. I'm Goody Two-Shoes. You are a troublemaker.
I am Sarah, and I'm the campaigns manager at Dimension, so I work in the marketing team. I'm based in Sheffield, but my work is national. And I think Emma is a big fat liar today. I am not a troublemaker at all.
If you haven't already known who I am the vice chair of the Dimensions Council, and I like coming up with ideas. Well, we've just had the local elections done, which was around the UK. I'm going to be slightly honest. I did not feel like this election I really knew what was happening within it, so I felt a little bit ill-informed than normal. Emma, did you vote in the local elections?
Yes, I always vote, and I voted by post like I normally do because it's dead easy. It's dead easy because I can just get it. I even customer vote on the Wednesday and posted it on the Wednesday about 2 weeks before election. So and I even got my friend to post it into a letterbox for me.
That's very efficient, Emma.
So I got my
spot. I do the in-person.
I'm
more in person.
Amazing. Did you know that if you don't post it in time, you can take your postal vote to the polling station on election day? And that also means you don't need ID because you just take it in and you post it. So if you've not got ID, you can apply for a postal vote, decide what you want to do in the comfort of your own home, pop it in the envelope, and then pop it down to the polling station on election day.
I probably would find out when the next polling booth is, but it's as simple as put it in the post box. So
absolutely.
I find that I always go in person to do the voting.
How's that feel?
So, it's all right.
Does it make you feel empowered, powerful?
Well, I once went straight in when I went into once I popped straight in whilst waiting for the bus, and I was still on time for the bus, which I quite like.
I like voting. It gives me a sense of power. It makes me feel like I'm actually doing something to influence this country, like how this country's run. Feels a bit different when the results come in and it's not always reflective of how I've voted. But at least I've taken part in it.
Because you're the campaigns manager, which I like. I saw the other day that there was election. No, they were talking about the right to vote across Europe, and I thought that was quite a good thing. So there you go. You've got some European friends to talk to now.
Well, that's really interesting. If it's all right, I want to plug our latest campaign, which is around voting. So we might look into this campaign that you've mentioned, Chelsea, and see if we can use some of their information. But what we're doing in the marketing team across Dimensions and with other organisations called United Response, Ambitious About Autism and MenCap is a new voting campaign specifically around making voting more accessible for people with learning disabilities and autistic people, because voting rates amongst these groups of people is lower than it should be, and considering so many rely on support workers and perhaps benefits and all other things that the government oversees, it's really important that they vote, but it's not always accessible.
We need to make sure that our welfare systems are good to have them, like having making sure we have support, we do have the financial needs to live individual lives.
Absolutely. And being able to go out and vote and know that you can vote is really important in that as well. There's actually somebody that Dimensions supports called Barbara, amazing woman, really outspoken and sassy, love her to pieces. But she didn't realise she could vote until she was in her 80s, because she always assumed she wasn't allowed because she's got a learning disability. Have you always known that you can vote, or how did you find out about it?
I think I just went and found, I don't think there was a barrier apart from one of my family members mentioning what was it, the suffragettes, women who fought for the right to vote. So there is that element of being a woman and having a learning disability or autism, where you've got that double empower, like as you might say, an empowerment there, because they fought for the right to vote, so we're doing the same to make sure it's accessible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So while
there's similarities,
there really is, and there was a big movement, a big fight to make it so women could vote, among other things. And thankfully, people with learning disabilities and autistic people do have the legal right to vote, completely regardless of mental capacity. But not everybody knows. It's not very widely known out there. So that's the challenge.
When was the right came in? When did they legally let people with learning disabilities and autism vote then?
That's a really good question. I don't know the year. You've stumped me, Chelsea. You're the troublemaker in this.
First time I seen Sarah speechless.
As we all know, it wasn't that long ago that they were in institutions and not even allowed in society, let alone deciding how the country's run.
Sarah, for your question, I think I just learned it off my parents, because I seen my parents vote. That's how I started to vote, and I always vote anyway, because with my postal vote, it's just a easy.
2006, Michelle's put in the comment.
But when people with learning disabilities were allowed to vote.
It says, Section 73 of the Electoral Administration Act 2006 abolished any common law restrictions that a person was unable to register to vote if they lacked legal capacity. 2006.
That's so recent.
Michelle, you're going to keep that in. I want you to keep that in the podcast.
So it sounds like
gobsmacked.
It sounds like perhaps before that, people with learning disabilities and autistic people could vote if they had mental capacity, and that's the thing. Whereas now, anybody can, regardless of mental capacity.
Also, people detained in ATU can vote. No, the assessment treatment units, which we are sort of against. But those are quite important facts, like.
And you have mental capacity, so you can make your own decisions and think about the good things and the bad things and things like that. But not all people have what's considered mental capacity, but they should still have that right to vote because they can express needs and they can express preferences. There's a young lad called James who's part of our campaign, who doesn't use spoken words to communicate. So he is what is considered profound and multiple learning disabilities. He uses eye gaze technology, so he'll use his eyes on a screen to say what he wants to say. He's big electric wheelchairs, and a lot of people would look at James and think, well, you can't vote, but he makes his own decisions. He's involved in his youth parliaments. He's really involved in politics. He helped us launch the campaign in the Houses of Parliament.
Was he on video?
He was on video at the launch of My Vote, My Voice.
Yeah, because I remember that. And then we also went on the Channel 4 News, which of course I like.
Yes,
and
James was on Channel 4 News as well. And Barbara was as well. But he was made to vote in the disabled toilet because, of course, he has to say who he wants to vote for. So his carer, which is usually his mum, can mark the ballot paper for him, and the only private place in his local polling station to do that was in the toilet. So imagine you turn up, you're feeling all powered up to vote, and then you get put in the bog, which is really, isn't it?
That's not very nice.
You are allowed to have your support worker with you to help you vote. I have never had that, where people have come in with me to help me mark my ballot paper. I've had them waiting outside.
Yes, you can absolutely have support to vote. You can have a carer or a support worker or a family member or a friend go into the polling station and the polling booth with you, or a private area if you need to speak your vote out loud. Absolutely, that is allowed. If you do go and you want some help but you don't have anybody with you, or they also want to ask some questions, the staff there at the polling station are available to help as well. They absolutely can support you and help you under reasonable adjustments, which are your legal right. Now, in the most recent local elections, it was the first time ever in England that people had to show ID. So there are accepted forms of ID like driving license, provisional driving license, passport, and I believe the disabled bus pass as well.
I just flashed it and they went,
yeah. So if you take your polling card and your ID, it's dead quick, and you can just show them both, and they'll give you the paper that you mark your ballot on. But if you don't have any of the accepted forms of ID, there is a free certificate that you can apply for called the Voter Authority Certificate. And you can apply online for that, or I believe you can go down to your local town hall and ask for a form. That means that you can vote in that election specifically. And show that as your form of ID. It's quite complicated, like this whole process is really new. People aren't used to it. So I'm sure you've got loads of questions and you've heard lots of scary stories in the news and media.
Yeah.
We've got loads of information on the My Vote, My Voice website, loads of easy read guides, and there's some videos on there. So please do go on and take a look. We'll include the web address, but if you want it now, it's myvotemyvoice.org.uk. And I have a favour that I want to ask listeners, if that's okay, Chelsea.
Go on then.
Oh, thanks. So we would like to ask our listeners to get in touch with organisations, local learning disability and autism organisations, or political organisations and charities and things like that, and even their local MPs and councillors, and ask them to sign up to support the My Vote, My Voice campaign. We're looking at getting lots and lots of supporters and champions really push this forward. And if you think we can get loads of MPs supporting it, then they can take that message right into local authorities and right into government, and they can tell the people that actually need to hear this.
How do they become champions? Because I can nag one person I know.
Amazing. Pop onto the website, so myvotemyvoice.org.uk, and then if you click on the little about tab at the top, it says who's part of the campaign, and you can sign up online to be involved with that, or email info@myvotemyvoice.org.uk.
Now we're going to talk about what the council talked in May. So I have a work program that I'm doing where you learn about how to do cafe work near where I live, and unfortunately the day they're wanting to do things is a Wednesday, which clashes in with so in my place we've had vice chairs, which sort of gives them the opportunity to do my job while I go and try and work out how you work a coffee machine.
In my previous role, I was a vice chair, so I'm always a bridesmaid, not a bride. Jordan was my chair, but for a couple of months, Jordan did go off somewhere, and then I ended up running it. So I have been in the chair for a couple of months, but not officially the bride. And then we just talked about how a face-to-face meeting went, and everybody sort of had some good comments about that. And then we had an update from Matt Brooks about my SAM campaign and the GP campaign. And then we had guests from the South Region people come and give us an update, and we spoke about this Guardian thing and about a cost of living. A Guardian General wants to know how a cost of living is affecting us. So
it sounds like an amazing opportunity. Talking to the Guardian, that's massive. But hearing that council members have got to put some shopping back because they can't afford it and that it's affecting support hours. I mean, I can completely see the price of food has gone up massively.
I'm more jealous that I go away and they're already talking to the Guardian newspaper. It's challenge the lingo. Bingo.
Challenge the lingo, lingo, lingo. Challenge the lingo. Bingo!
And today's subject is don't talk over me, talk to me. Emma?
Yeah, sometimes when I go to like hospital appointments or doctor's appointments, the doctors always talk to my support worker, and I say, hey, I'm in the room, so talk to me.
Good that you've got the confidence to do that, because not everybody has. How do you feel when someone talks to your support worker instead of you?
I feel like I'm nobody. Do you know what I mean?
Anybody who knows you are absolutely not nobody. You've got the energy and enthusiasm of at least two people, let alone nobody.
But when somebody's talking to my support worker, that's how I feel, because it's my body. It's not their body.
That's really sad because you're a wonderful person, and to think that people just disregard you is awful.
Yeah.
One of my problems is I have one of my support worker always like sometimes like talking for me, and I'm like I could have done that, but sometimes I'm like a little bit quiet, and then it's like, will you pack it in? That's what you want to say to them. Like, I think it's two of them because they like I'm like I'm fine now. I can talk now. I've got my vocal, because sometimes I actually go quiet, and sometimes my mind actually stops. But people don't realise what goes on in my mind when I look like that. So sometimes there's like people talk about selective mutism. Maybe if you're unsure, you should greet both people.
This ties in a little bit with something that you said earlier, Chelsea. You were talking about...
Me?
Yeah, you were talking about when we were talking about the right to vote, and you were saying how you're female and you've got you're autistic, which has got two playing against you. So people speaking over you and not to you used to happen a lot to women. Women used to be just ignored, and people were just speaking to the man. And this is happening for people with learning disabilities and autistic people as well. It's almost as if, like Emma says, it makes you feel like nobody. It makes you feel like you don't matter, which is wrong. It's nice to know that things change for women, so things are and can change for people with learning disabilities and autistic people too.
I always feel like we're always down at the bottom sometimes of the pecking order in society. And Michelle told me to say one thing, but we all know that's not going to happen. So you know what this means is the download section. So our download section is to talk about all sorts of issues. No, not issues. This is the section of where we talk about what we've been doing.
I've been doing a lot of gardening because I've got a massive garden, and it was a state when I moved in. And now I've got pretty flowers, and I've got a flower that's blooming, and I grew it myself, and I'm such a proud mama. So I've been making an absolute mess and getting all the dirt all over the place, and the dog keeps running off with my plants and all the weeds and things. So that's been lovely. So fingers crossed for lots of tomatoes and cucumbers this year.
Do you spend time in the garden as like leisurely, not planting things?
I live in the garden. I lived in an apartment for 15 years of my life. So I live in the garden now. I've got 15 years of no outdoor time to make up for.
What I like doing is I just did something what I'm quite proud of. This time last week, I was on the train up to Dundee because I went for a weekend. because I got a sister who lives up in Scotland, and she agreed to come down and spend some time with me and with my sister's children. So we just had a lovely day. We went on a discovery trip, what's in Dundee, and then we had a lovely meal, and then we went to Tartan. We went to V&A, what's in Dundee, and they had a Tartan museum, and it was lovely because I got to spend some time with my sister without my parents. So it was a good weekend.
I didn't go up to Dundee. I actually went down south to Beer, which is in Devon. So we went down to Devon, and I went with my grandparents. And they were in a caravan. So my mum's parents, Granite and Banff, they were down in a caravan. And I was very good with my suntan lotion. Thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Not everyone else did not at all burn. Okay, I was good. So yeah. So sunscreen when you go on holiday, that's important. Did you even get some sun up there, Emma?
No, it was quite nice because it was cloudy, and I suffer with the heat when it gets too hot. I can't do anything, and it just wears me out.
So we do need our numbers going up in the views. I really want more people to listen to this. So share it with everyone. Share it with the dog. Share it with the cat. Share it with the pigeons. Share it with your sleeping partner next to you. Maybe the baby can listen. But yeah, so please, we want to say that if you want to contact us, please do at dimensions, the little dashy thing that floats in the middle, uk.org. So dimensions@dimensions/uk.org. And we would like to thank our guest, which is Sarah, our campaigns manager. And we'd like to thank Emma, who's our council member. And we would like to thank Michelle in the background for being a ninja.
Bye!
Bye!
Bye,
guys!
Bye!
What was I talking about? I got distracted.